And hopefully we are coming in live on YouTube. Hey to everybody who is in the live chat. My name is Heather and I am the host of Sunshine and Power Cuts. And this week I am doing a week of live streams celebrating connections. And today I am joined by Stephen Jondrew and Stargate Pioneer from Better Podcasting. Hey guys.
Hello,
What an
hello.
honor and pleasure to be here. This is awesome. We're kicking off. We are the feature for the kickoff for Sunshine 2018.
SP's very modest if you've never met him before.
It's in the contract that you have to promote the fact that I am the star of Better Podcasting. You know that.
Absolutely, he is. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Stargate Pioneer, and I am his lowly sidekick.
And I
Steven
am
something.
And I am your #1 New Zealand fan. So there you go.
It's great.
Thank you so much for having us on here.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Thank you for joining me. And what's really cool about this one is that back when I was about to launch my podcast in August, Jondrew from Podcastage actually recommended that I check you guys out as a resource. And I'm so glad that I did. And what I found was when I came to geeks.live and joined the first live recording of your Better Podcasting episode, I met Emily Prokop there. And you guys gave me such a warm welcome and asked about what I was doing. And I told you, and you didn't freak out at my weird idea. And you encouraged me to get on and do it. So thank you guys so much.
This is a phenomenal thing for a new podcaster to do. Stephen, I can't imagine doing anything like this the first year of my podcasting. And I know you've been podcasting for a while, but I don't even think this capability was available when you started podcasting in, what was it, 20 BC?
Yeah, something like that. I've been podcasting for 10 years and I've never taken on something like this. I may have helped establish a network. I may have helped do cross promotion items. I may have done all of these other things, but I've never taken on anything like this. And it is incredible. And I said it on Better Podcasting. I've said it elsewhere. I will say it right here. I think that you deserve a big round of applause from everybody because it is such a big thing that you took on, especially for your first year. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's going to be fun. There's no reason it can't be fun, right?
Absolutely. Wait, podcasting is supposed to be fun? Hold on. Well, this is news to me.
But like the fun part about Better Podcasting with your live recording is that we can hang out there too. And so this week of live streams is a great way of connecting with people who enjoy your show, my show, and just hang out.
That's right. I am further impressed of the connections you have made to make this happen. That's a lot of people that you have coming from all over the world and all sorts of podcasting just for this Sunshine Summit. So congratulations on making those connections in just a year. Again, this is fantastic. I can't wait for the rest of the streams as well. This is going to be an exciting week.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it too.
Plus, I actually discovered that you actually met all of SP's writer demands, and on there included things like a $6 billion infrastructure direct link to his house, as well as the original printing of the Beatles' White Album. I can't believe you did that.
It was $6 trillion, by the way, not billion. And that is in US dollars, not Canadian dollars.
Sorry. Well, at least we made it. And at least we're coming in loud and clear and people can hear us. And thanks to everybody who's joined us in the live chat. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining us. That's great too.
Yeah. So if you guys, because you are a part of the Gunna Geek Network and that's something that has connected you with a lot of people. So if you wanted to share something like that and some of the connections that you've made with Better Podcasting, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just start off here with number one that I've got on my list, which is the Gunna Geek Network itself. The network itself was based off of a collaboration in a former podcast life. I originally made GunnaGeek.com myself for just a place that I could geek out. And yes, it technically had a podcast network, but really it was just a listing of some podcasts that I did and some others that I quite liked. And then what happened was on my previous podcast that I did, it was a comic book podcast. We decided to take on the crazy challenge of trying to bring 3 podcasts together to all do one single episode. a train wreck. Like, let's be totally honest. Everybody was talking over each other. There's way too many people, but it was worth it because out of that stemmed the Gonna Geek Network. And what ended up happening was afterwards, there was a few of us, a few different shows, and all of us said, "Oh, we really like that collaboration thing," and we ended up basically building off of that to turn into Gonna Geek Network 2.0. And actually, this was before Stargate Pioneer. He wasn't even there yet. He was not one of the founding three. And that collaboration together of the network led to expansion, which led to the huge amount of podcasts that we've got now, some of them which have come and gone. A lot of people have been a part of the network. And of course, that's where I met SP. So the podcasting itself, a previous podcast collaboration, that connection built the Gonna Geek Network itself.
That's awesome.
There were several different communities that came together, as Stephen was saying. I was part of a kind of a fringe community, really, to hit the main two communities. And that community has come on board full-fledged, and then others as well over the time. I mean, we have an ability for podcasts to submit to become part of the network, and they go through an approval process. And we've gotten people that have just applied out of the blue. We have gotten people to part of the network that we have gone to and said, "Hey, we think you should be part of our network because you fit so well with us. So have you ever considered it?" And, well, no, we haven't. What's entailed? And we tell them it's just a collaboration of other hobby podcasters, and we get together and it's great. So the ability of taking those original communities and then bringing on board other people, other communities, other podcasters over the years has just been great. The amount of talent and creativity there is out in the podcast world. Heather, I don't know if you know this, but are you aware that a year ago, Apple said that they had 400,000 podcasts as part of iTunes, or now Apple Podcasts? 400,000. That's a lot of podcasts.
That is a lot of podcasts, and I happen to be one of the however many started in August last year. So
Yeah. 1,000 new podcasts come on board every week. That is what Apple says. Now, I don't know how many stay, but 1,000 new podcasts come on board every week. And I'm excited to hear Apple's revisit of those statistics of how many podcasts that they actually have in iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It's the same thing. iTunes is actually the desktop version of their directory. Apple Podcasts is their app that they have on iOS, and they insist on calling it Apple Podcasts now. Okay, so we'll just go with it. So there are a lot of podcasts out there, and I'm just great to be connected. Some really creative people as part of that, and that is why I do this. I mean, I don't go to the bar. I can't drink. I don't climb mountains, so I got to do something. So podcasting it is, and it's great to meet other people from around the world. It's awesome.
Yeah, and we connected for International Podcast Day last year, and I was one of your international guests, technically, because we were all in different countries at that time, which was cool.
Yeah, and we still are right now. We're all 3 different countries, and you can find that at internationalpodcastingday.com, what we did last year. Every year it's September 30th. So this year it'll be September 30th, 2018. So be on the lookout for that, International Podcasting Day 2018.
Just going back to what you were saying about Apple Podcasts. So what's really good about Better Podcasting is that it's a way that we can sort of get that information and learn about the changes and things that are happening, and also as well the tips and tricks for improving our podcasts and making them even better. And the community that you have come by in the live chat, as well as the other shows that you have on the Gonna Geek Network, and the support that they do for each other. I've seen like retweeting stuff on Twitter, and that it's really incredible. You've made a really awesome community.
Well, I gotta say, yes, thank you very much. And I gotta say that that community that you get isn't just the Gonna Geek Network. Podcasting is a very tight community compared to a lot of other hobbies and a lot of other things that people do. And it's amazing the support that other podcasters have. And I don't think that we could have something as tight as the Gonna Geek Network without it being centered around podcasting. Gonna Geek itself started with a bunch of people writing articles and never reached the tightness that we have now, because podcasting is just, it's easy to help each other out. That's a huge benefit that we have with the Gonna Geek Network as far as connection building goes, is you see it happen all the time. Is we have a plethora of different podcasts there, and there's constant guest swapping, and that's how the connections build. Is people end up volunteering to go on one show that maybe they've listened to on the network but haven't been a part of. And I think that all stems from the intimate nature of podcasting itself. So I think that if you're looking to build connections with people in general, podcasting is a great way to do it.
Yeah. And you also have a forum resource as well that you have where people can connect there and ask questions and things. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's the podcastforum.com. That's the podcastforum.com.
Or the podcastforum.com.
Except only one E. I don't have the other domain. Someone's going to go buy it now. But yes, it's still growing because, let's be honest, forums are a little bit dated, but we have had some good support behind it. We want to make another push with it going forward because a lot of times we find that Facebook groups and Google Plus groups and things like that, it's really easy for information to get lost. And forums are naturally sorted to a degree. And it's just a really good structure as far as trying to sort this information and let people have access to it. So if someone is interested, we encourage you to come over to the podcastforum.com. Just say hi. If you got a quick question, post it there. Yes, there's a bunch of categories. If you put in the wrong one, no problem. We'll move it to the right one. We're friendly. We were happy to make that right.
That's awesome. And I was going to say something along the lines of what was I going to say?
It's all right. So let me give you an example of why the podcast forum is so important. Like even in the past week over on Reddit, there was no less than 4 posts made by different people of, so how do I grow my audience? And a Redditor actually posted this great post that was all detailed, formatted and everything about the basics of how to grow your audience. So what did I have to do whenever they came up? And I said, well, you should check out such and such's post. I think it's the Podcast Dude's post on this subreddit. I think it was the podcasting Reddit. And I would link the actual post and they'd be like, oh, that is so cool. I'm so great. And it was like less than a week apart. They just didn't bother to go down and see what the history was, just even in the subreddit that they were in. It's like, dudes, come on. This is great. And the podcast forum can actually categorize all that information and it can be available for you. So that is why it's so important. And have you ever tried to go back and find something in Facebook that was posted 2 days ago? It's impossible.
It's a nightmare.
So,
yeah.
Let me tell you the top 2 Facebook posts. What microphone should I use and what host should I use? Those are your pretty much every single Facebook group every 2 days. That's what it is.
Yeah. So with living off the grid and joining those kinds of groups, I joined the off-grid groups to see how everyone else was doing it. And then I kind of backed away from them just a little bit because the same thing, there were the people who'd been there for a long time and who are either living off-grid or whatever, and they know all about it. And then every new person who came in would ask the same question, and the people in those groups would get a little bit antsy about answering that same question. But generally speaking, and like you said, in podcasting, it is a really tight-knit community and incredibly supportive of everyone. And I was just going to say that this Sunshine Summit has kind of brought out some new connections that weren't there before, perhaps because Odd Dad Out, Adam, who's in the chat, he listened to Better Podcasting and then reviewed it, and you guys connected there, and that was pretty awesome.
Absolutely. And it was quite an honor to hear what he had to say. And we definitely felt very humbled by it. And I think it's a great example on that tight-knit community that is podcasting. And kind of along those lines, we've talked about the podcast forum and whatnot, but we don't actually advertise this very much. But when people end up joining the network, we actually have a private Gonna Geek Facebook group that everybody's welcome to join in, but you must be part of the network. And you see a lot of these actually around the podcast community where different groups of people have specific closed groups. And it's a great way to share information. And we've built a lot of connections in there. Sometimes the posts are simple as, hey, this microphone's on sale. If you're looking for a microphone, you should get this now. Or other times it's, hey, this event is coming up. Does anybody want to be a part of it? And that's something that podcasting has allowed us to do, is by connecting with the fellow Gonna Geek Network members. We have this private group, and there's been a lot of collaboration just because we just created a group on Facebook that all Gonna Geek members are able to join.
Yeah.
In the fall of 2015, that Facebook group was actually instrumental in setting up our first Gonna Geek sponsored, basically, podcast panel at a major convention. Happened at C2E2, which is a geeky sort of convention in Chicago in, was it April, March? I can't remember the actual date, but it was in the early part of 2016. And there were 6 of us from the network that got together and did an hour-long panel in front of literally 100 people or more, actually. I don't remember the room count. But then afterwards, one of the people that had become part of the network, Cody Goff, he actually was a part-time announcer for WGN Radio, which is a huge radio station for the city of Chicago. And they handle a lot of the sports events for the teams in that city. So as part of our time off, what we did is we went to the WGN studios and we actually recorded another podcast inside the radio station in one of their sound booths. This is phenomenal, the stuff that can happen when you connect with other people. And I can't, by the way, I just can't say Cody Goff without saying he is the verified Cody Goff on Twitter.
Stop sucking up to Cody just because you want to go back to WGN.
I just want to make sure everybody knows that he is the only verified member on the Gonna Geek network that is on Twitter.
Okay, fair enough. Fun story with that, by the way. I'll just go on a slight tangent on this here. SP got there, everybody got there, and they started to record in WGN, and they went, wow, these microphones are really cool. To which SP quickly responded, yeah, that's the microphone that I use. So there you go.
It's a microphone that's in front of me right now, the Electro Voice RE320. I'm like, yeah, it's all right. You can get these at home, because they're thinking they're like thousands of dollars worth of microphone. No, I mean, you can get it from the different distributors for a couple $100. So, you too can podcast like WGN Radio, Chicago.
I have a question for you. What have been some of your favorite collaborations that you've done that are a little bit outside of just your normal standard shows that you put out?
Okay, I'll start with this one here. And I think way back to December of 2017, just a few months ago, I had this insane vision. What I like to do for the official GonnaGeek.com show, Not Better Podcasting, but the other one that I do, I like to try to do a Christmas special of some form every year. One year it was a game involving the whole network. Another time it was a crazy reveal of my Wink system that I have with smart home stuff. And last year I decided we're going to do a Christmas special and knock off A Christmas Carol, I believe was what it was. And so I decided that to write this script, it was going to be podcast oriented. I was going to be the big bad guy. And I involved a whole bunch of different people. I obviously involved my co-hosts SP and Chris from the official GonnaGeek.com show. I involved somebody who was a regular guest last year named Nate. And I even involved the one and only Heather Welsh to do the narration. And what it was just a video product that was a fun, Christmas spirited, just general, I guess, promotion type video, but it was just a fun project. And that was probably my favorite collaboration because it was different from what we usually do. And it allowed me to get back in touch with my video roots. I have a bit of video roots as well, just really see what I could do with only a few weeks notice, because I really thought about it a few weeks before when I had to have it done. And everybody was really good, and we all just I think had fun doing it, and a lot of people offered to a lot of people stepped up, is what I should say, to get it done. So it was a lot of fun for me.
That was incredibly fun to be a part of, and it was quick. It was a pretty short turnaround in the scheme of things, but it turned out to be a really fantastic production, and I love that. I love the creativity of it, and that you got us all involved. So thank you.
Which, by the way, I'll just plug it. It's www.geeks.link/A Christmas Podcast. Will take you right there.
Awesome.
If you think my demands are insufferable for just connecting for something like this, Steven's demands for what shots to take, how long you should take it, what you should eat beforehand, how close do you need to shave your legs before you do the shot, those are stage directions that Steven demands to be accomplished before every single part is filmed. So, yeah, if you work with a demanding producer, it can be basically a lot of fun because he puts together a great promotion. So there you go. If you ever have a chance to get involved in something like this in a collaborative environment, it's great. One of my favorite collaborations actually was, hey, Steven, do you remember this? I was on the same podcast as Tom Merritt.
What? Were you really? No way. Go. I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, Tom Merritt of the Daily Tech News Show. I was on Undaunted, the episode after him. So we were on the same podcast, but different episodes. So that was really cool. I was like, really, dude, you want me to go after Tom Merritt? I mean, I kind of felt like the guy who was sweeping the floor after the party had been over with. And like, okay, he's the clown to listen to you after that. But yeah, that was fun. Also, we have actually both had the chance to podcast with an Olympic event announcer. That would be Jason Bryant of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. That guy is insane. His announcing is incredible. His voice is incredible. And he comes off the cuff with the craziest things, just like any good sports announcer does. And it is just fun to be around him. So that's been fun as well as all of the podcast panels that I've done at conventions, and do a few every year. And it's just fun to do, meet other people. Matter of fact, last year I did one at Gen Con, which is just this huge like tabletop board gaming convention in Indianapolis. And we actually met somebody, James Uhas, who runs the Just One More Fix podcast. And that was one of the guys who was like, hey, it sounds like you fit the Gonna Geek network and you're interested in podcasting and you're interested in podcasting networks. Why don't we get together? He's like, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And it's an amazing, if you're interested in tabletop gaming, that is an amazing pocket. It really is. We're really fortunate to have it on the network. So I encourage you to check it out if you are into tabletop gaming. James is a wonderful production, and they talk about the background of actual tabletop gaming, how to master it, how to be the game master of it, how to play, how to include other people and everything. It's very informative. So that is a cool podcast to go listen to. And it's just stuff like that happens at these conventions. Like at C2E2, before I was talking about that, I met a bunch of people that we still talk to outside of our network, like Seth from Geekville Radio. That was an amazing connection to make. I still remember meeting him. I had no idea who he was at the time, but I remember meeting him because he has one of those amazing radio voices too. So it's great to do that. So, and then meeting you, it's fun too. So collaboration can happen at any time. You just got to make it happen.
Yeah. And I'm just going to go way back to the beginning, but you guys are, you do a podcast together and you do other shows together as well. So how did that all happen? The connection with you guys.
Originally what happened was I was arrested, and so this was my no, I'm just joking.
The probation is over with in 2020, so we'll see what happens then.
No, actually, SP came into the network through the connection, through one of the three sort of pockets of communities that came together after that initial collaboration that I mentioned. And he just kind of got involved with some podcasts. We started to chat a little bit. Then he took on and started his own shows. And I think it was actually a fellow named Wing who said, hey, you should have his podcast on the network or something like that. And I said, sure, yeah. So then just through the Gonna Geek communications, SP and I started to chat in a couple of group chats because podcasting it's really easy to fall into group chats like on Hangouts or iMessage or whatever. And quickly, him and I think, started to realize that we had very similar visions, and we both were constantly looking at gear and analyzing gear. And I still remember in these group chats for a while there, it was just SP and I pretty much back and forth with a whole bunch of people in these group chats saying, hey, I'm thinking about getting this board, or I'm thinking about getting this. What's everybody's thoughts? And it was just him and I responding. And at one point it just became a DM. And next thing you know,
somebody said, get a room.
Pretty much. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And just through that communication, we ended up eventually having the idea of doing better podcasting. And it was, we'd seen some other podcasts about podcasting out there, and a lot of them focused on money, or they focused on marketing, and they focused on things that really didn't apply to us as hobby podcasters, because we are trying to make this a fun experience and we're not doing it as business. So through some of these chats, it just ended up coming up that we said, hey, maybe we should think about doing a podcast about podcasting, but from the hobbyist perspective. And we planned it out for, what was it, like 9 months, SP? It was something ridiculous.
It's about 10 months because we started talking about it in December and we finally recorded our first teaser episode 0 in October. I mean, we really strive to get that done in October. I believe it was like the last week of October. We were like, we're going to get this done in October. So we did. And then we started off episode 1 in November, and we've been going just about every week since. We do take a couple of weeks off during the year, mostly during the holiday timeframes, but we keep going because we know that there are a lot of hobbyists out there that just want to get better, and that's why we're doing this. One of the reasons why we did better podcasting was to help those own shows on our own network. It's like, okay, you guys have an amazing creative ability, but you might not be as interested in the production side of podcasts as we are. So we're just going to help you out and tutelage you a little bit on the great knowledge that we have gone out to find. And we're hoping that it helps you. And we also knew that it would help other people as well. So that's why we started Better Podcasting, because we really like podcasting. We really like the process of podcasting. We really wanted to help other people just like us, because we saw, as Steven said, there's a lot of actual professional industry involved in podcasting, because eventually there's just going to be a lot of money in the space, because you're talking about audio, radio. Eventually, that's one of the things that's going to go to. And there's going to be a lot of advertisement dollars that are going to come through to it. And it's just a monetizing of the space, which isn't bad, but it also means that the hobbyists like us who just do it for fun might be left behind in the how-tos. So there are certain ways to do it which are a little bit easier than others, or a little bit better. There's no wrong way, but there are better ways to do it. And that's why we call the show Better Podcasting, because it's a way to get better at podcasting.
And I love it, and I try and catch it every week. And it's the one challenge that I have is working out the time zones, because I've got to make sure I catch it on the right day. And I've been there early before and on the wrong day and all that kind of stuff. But every week I learn something new. And the other fun thing about it is the banter that you guys have back and forth between each other. And it's something that makes it easy to take in the information, because there is a lot of information there, and just really interesting and fun to follow along with and to apply it when I help off the live. So yeah, thank you for all that you do.
Well, we appreciate that, and I'd be lying if I said we didn't consider that some of the podcasts out there were somewhat dry and fact focused, and we wanted to definitely have some fun. You know, that was definitely a big part of what we wanted to do. We wanted to make it enjoyable, but also something that was tailored towards the hobby podcaster. And so it's great to hear that feedback and that we've accomplished that. We still have a whole bunch of stuff in the hopper. We are constantly thinking of new ideas. Sometimes we rearrange things if something ends up coming up in the podcasting world. And we think, hey, maybe we should hit this topic sooner. There's a whole bunch of things to talk about in podcasting. And I think sometimes some people who do end up doing podcast advice, they end up fading because they get focused on sort of what everyone's talking about. And so they almost paint themselves into a corner. I think when you look at it from outside a little bit and look at it a little bit more objectively, you can see there's a whole bunch of different things that you can break down. And that's what we try to do with Better Podcasting, is really break it down of what's worked for us and also what has been a disaster for us.
But you also pull in the how do you save your podcast. So you branch out and connect with your audience and put Twitter polls up that we can participate in, which is fun. And then you read that feedback on the show. And you also have the pre and post sessions with the live audience as well. But the how you save your podcast is a really cool aspect of bringing in more stories from just your pool of experience and expertise.
Well, I'm glad
yeah. Especially at the hobbyist level, you have a bunch of things that can go wrong because you're not doing this every day. You're doing this as a part-time gig on the side, as a hobby, just like you would bowling or water skiing or sailing or whatever Canadians do for fun. I think it's curling, but I don't know for sure. And
no, it's going to Tim Hortons. That's our version of fun.
I see. And getting that good hot coffee in those little Timmy donut holes, whatever they're called.
Timbits.
Timbits. There you go. Yeah. So it is important to understand that the space actually changes over time. And podcasting has changed since I've gotten into podcasting. It's definitely changed since Steven has gotten into it, and it changes every year. And you have to keep up on this. And if you're just a hobbyist and you are only doing it once a week or a couple times a week, you might not be paying attention to the pod space, as we call it, And to get that information from somewhere is really important. And we have a news section that we try to keep up on current things as well every week to make sure that our audience is informed of what's important going on that relates specifically to hobbyists. It's not all inclusive, but we do try to hit the highlights on stuff that is going to affect the hobbyists. So that's important for better podcasting as well.
Yeah, I agree. And we had a question, like just on because that's connecting us with the information that's out there. But Andrew from Podcastage asked, "How do you suggest going about making connections on the internet? It seems like the waters can be very difficult to navigate when you're starting out." So, what do you have just on that?
I would first start with plugging your Ethernet cord from your computer into your router.
It's good step one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to say that from my experience, I think that sometimes you have to like it's unique to the specific person that you're targeting. For example, somebody with a little bit of notability, you might have troubles emailing them, and you might send them an email and it just gets filtered in their email. I have no notability, and but because I've run two sites that have had quite a bit of interest over the years, I get a lot of email, and sometimes it's easy for emails to get lost. So somebody like that, you might want to go ahead and try to hit up on Twitter if they've got that, because a lot of times people see the tags. So you really have to look at the specific person. Where can you find them? Now, if it is a large person that you're trying to make a connection with, you might reach out to that and they'll say, "Hey, you need to get in touch with my agency," or whatever. But that's obviously more of something like a guest interview and whatnot. But you really have to gauge it, in my opinion, by the specific person. But just drop a simple message to the person somewhere is the best first steps. And sometimes it is email, sometimes it's showing up to their live chat. We had somebody just yesterday post on our YouTube to one of our videos that said, "Hey, I'd love to have you on the show." So I think it really does depend on the person. But before you make that first contact, I think it's best to see where are they most active. And a good example of that is we've been recently pulling some of the Gonna Geek Network members and finding out where they best are reached. And a lot of them have said, "I don't get email, but I do end up checking the Facebook groups." So for someone like that, obviously Facebook's the better place to try to reach them. I will say this from a Facebook Messenger perspective, it's probably not a good idea to message somebody who you're not friends with, because they probably won't get it, because Facebook sometimes puts that into a big I don't know, hold somewhere. I don't know what they call that.
Yeah. I would also say that it's important to, if you want to make a connection with someone, kind of really look at why you want to make a connection with them and see what you can maybe offer as part of your connection to reach out to make it stand out from all of the other connections that they possibly might receive. So, an example for me was I'm a member of the Female Entrepreneur Association, which is a huge group of women around the world. And to like, I really look up to Carrie Green, who runs that. She is an amazing person, and to stand out and sort of and not to really push. It was a thing that I wanted to do because I genuinely care about what she was doing. But she launched her book last year, and so I sent her a care package from New Zealand all the way over there, which is kind of out of the blue, to her PO box, and she got it, and she did. She was doing a vlog at the time, and she opened it on her vlog, and we've stayed in touch, and I've been a part of mastermind groups with her and um, focus groups and things like that. So she was someone who was a kind of a big name, like in a big group, and that was one way that I reached out to her. And I'm not saying send everybody something, because that's not always an option, but I loved what she did, and I made something of value so that she could see just how much it meant to me and what the connection what might come out of it, I guess, if that's what I'm trying to say.
You could also always do what SP did with me, and he swiped left on the app. He swiped left.
And what I've transitioned to now, because I've been banned from Tinder, is I get drones and I stalk people with the drones. I follow them around all the time to make sure that they know that somebody's watching them and wants to communicate with them. So that's what I do. No, what I do is I get involved in their community and I ask questions. Generally, I have a general interest. I'm not like stalking anybody. I like want to connect with them on that particular topic. So I'm asking questions, become involved in their community, wherever that is. And then you make different connections. Your connection might not be with the main person that runs the group or has the podcast or has the YouTube channel. It might be somebody else that's involved in the community that you find that you connect with better than anybody else. So becoming involved in these online communities can then start to make those internet connections. And by the way, if you do follow me around with a drone, I will shoot it down with my drone.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Speaking of connections, one of the most intriguing connections that I've made with podcasting is with a guy named Neil. Okay, so this Neil guy came to the Gonna Geek Network actually kind of through the same community that SP did, and it started off that he was just commenting on posts on different podcasts that we would end up putting out there. And actually, the first time I ever saw him, his Twitter name is Neil Isn't Witty. I misread it as Nelly Isn't Witty, and I think that actually instantly built a connection because then I got razzed by him. Well, the long story short of it is, turns out that he actually lives relatively close to me. If last year for work purposes, I had to travel quite a bit to a wonderful city named Vancouver, and turns out that he actually lived over there, but not grew up, but spent a good amount of time in my city. So again, that was another way that we built connection. Well, what was really cool was he was so close to me. He was in an area that I regularly traveled to, that just from Gonna Geek, I was able to occasionally meet up with him face to face. He's the only one that I've actually met up face to face on the Gonna Geek Network. But it was just because we were both part of the same, essentially, podcast community, the Gonna Geek Network. And it all started out with him posting a comment on one of our podcasts, and I misread it.
I'm pretty sure his name is really Nelly Isn't Witty, but that's between here and there. I think he changed it after he actually heard it, somebody saying it. Neil, if you're watching this, I love you, buddy. So yeah, making those connections on the communities is key, especially if you're talking the geographic separation. It could literally be the next street over, but you're still geographically separated to the point where you're talking to each other from separate buildings, separate locations. And this happens more and more in the digital age. More and more people are doing this. More and more people are not going to the store. They're shopping online, having it delivered to them. More and more people are not going to the bar or consuming their entertainment together. And getting a ticket to a concert these days, $150. That's not Canadian dollars. That's, real American money. That's a lot of money just to spend on 3 hours of entertainment. So yeah, you need to actually connect with other people in areas and events that are not really expensive, or maybe that you don't have to travel far to get to, because we're all really busy in this day and age. We're all working 20-hour days and commuting 4 hours. So it gets that way. Or we're taking care of our solar panels, which may or may not catch on fire.
That was terrible, and I hope that my solar panels don't catch on fire. But is everything all right with that shopping mall?
I don't know. From what I saw on the news, in the links that were sent to me, I think everything was fine. It was just solar panels got caught on fire on a roof of some retail store in this news story that I saw. So I was like, I sent it to Heather saying, here you go. Hope this doesn't happen to you. So yeah, electrical faults can happen with anything, but that's the point, is that you need to make connections with other people, because stuff like that does happen. I mean, take a look at after Stephen, remember 9/11, and remember how close everybody got after that, but we're afraid to go out and that sort of thing. Well, if you don't make those connections with other people, you can become really afraid and shut in. So this is an ability for people to reach out and communicate with other people and share information back and forth. Okay, this is a good one. So XM radio came out, right? Because everybody was tired of driving cross country and not being able to listen to the same radio station across the country, or listening to commercials, and then didn't want to listen to commercials anymore. And this was before podcasting day. And then what happened was a bunch of commercials came in, and people just didn't want to listen to XM radio anymore, or they didn't want to pay the $150 subscription every 3 hours to listen to this stuff. So along came this new technology of podcasting and the ability to download it to a mobile device. And then people started doing that. So it is a great example of how we have transitioned from radio, which was local, to XM satellite radio here in North America, to podcasting, which is really internationally, but can go across everywhere within our own country, Stephen and I, in North America. And it's a wonderful way to build community. So I had a lot of fun doing podcasting, and I hope that you do too, Heather, because you've been in it a year, and I hope that the new podcaster shine doesn't wear off and that you continue to enjoy it in the years to come.
Thank you. I've actually only been in it like 7 months, but thanks for dumping me up to the year. The one thing I was gonna say was my example before was really extreme of how I connected with Carrie Green, but a more simpler way, like you said, is supporting those communities and being a part of them and being a valuable part of them. And so I like to turn up to your live streams on a weekly basis as much as I can make them, and share that on Twitter when I can, and promote it in other groups as well. And I mean, all it takes is a little thing on my part, just to do that. And I don't, it's something that I enjoy doing because I really enjoy what you do. And same for the podcast. It's Discord server. I spend a lot of time there, and you can just reply to something, or I don't know, you make connections anywhere by just sort of reaching out and taking that first step of engaging with someone. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a big thing.
Absolutely. And I think our experience actually, which essentially brought, I think, you to us, is is how we came across Andrew from Podcastage. Is, yeah, as I mentioned before, SP and I like to look at gear and possibly buy gear and try it out and whatnot. And SP came across the Podcastage YouTube channel, and he goes, "Hey, Steven, you got to check this out. Check this guy out. He's awesome. In fact, I'd like to dump him right now and have you have him co-host Better Podcasting." I think that was his exact words. So, needless to say, I got fired, and long story short, he brought me back, and we ended up contacting Bandrew and just said, "Hey, we like your channel. We'd like to have you come on Better Podcasting." And that was the connection that we built with Bandrew, just because SP chose to be a part of that community. Like, I give SP full credit for that, because I had not seen the channel, full disclosure, and SP was the one that discovered it. And so it's how we discovered Bandrew, and then essentially how eventually you would have come to find us.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the amazing part of this week, and that you're all part of the Sunshine Summit. So I'm really grateful that you're all here.
Well,
full
we are
disclaimer-
grateful that you gave us us.
Yeah. In full
That's-
disclaimer, I was surfing YouTube in search of microphone porn, and that's how I found Bandrew.
You made Heather speechless. You made her completely speechless.
Well, it's true, because Bandrew has, I don't know how many, but he's got reviews of microphone, and this guy is going to be on the Sunshine Summit. He's going to close it out 6 days from now. So pay attention to the Sunshine Summit. But he's got probably over 1,000 microphone reviews. I don't know exactly how many, and he hasn't counted either. And I don't have the patience to sift through his YouTube channel to check out each individual one. But it is amazing the amount of information he's been able to compile. And this is somebody that really didn't know all that much about microphones when he started. And that's why he started the channel, was that he wanted to know more about microphones, because he kept on wondering, which microphone should I use for podcasting, for singing, because he's a musician, and which microphones which work best in different applications. So he started into this review, and it's burdened in to this just amazing resource for anybody, because it's free on YouTube, for anybody to go and get his knowledge, his thoughts, his reviews on individual microphones, and even in his versus series, his comparison between microphones as well. So if you're thinking, should I do that Rode Procaster or that Electro Voice RE320, you can go there, and you can go there with some just really weird microphones that I've never heard about. But he is able to pull that all together, because it's what he does every week. He releases 2 review videos every week, and he releases a podcast every week. So talk about a prolific guy in terms of content creation. Bandrew is it. So Bandrew, thank you very much for doing that, and ultimately bringing the 3 of us here together on this show.
Thank you.
On this Sunshine Summit. Sunshine Summit. I will never get that right.
I'm really sorry that it's so hard to say. It's fantastic. Everyone is everyone's stumbling over. I'm sorry.
Everything is hard for me to say. Have you ever heard me try to say Steven's name? Steven. Steve. Yeah, it's all weird.
One of my favorite collaborations too was the December one that we did back in for the Christmas special. That was amazing. But I was also really grateful for the opportunity to do the unofficial live stream for Better Podcasting when you guys couldn't make it that time. And you guys also have some other guests that you bring on to be the hosts of the show at random times. And it can never really tell if you are actually firing each other or what's going on. But it's always a good time when you have those extra things. And so thank you for allowing us to be a part of it.
I gotta say that unofficial live stream was awesome, and that's an awesome example on how the connections can just fill a gap. What ended up happening with that was this was when I was actually away for work, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to record that week. And SP was going to be recording with Jason Bryant, who you mentioned earlier, but we weren't sure technically if it was going to work. So we went out there and we said, we're not going to live stream that day. We're just going to commit to that now because we don't want to say we're going to live stream on that day and then have it fall through. And it was at the end of a live stream that we were telling everybody, don't worry about coming back next week. And then the idea just hit me. Hey, does anybody want to take this spot? If anybody wants to take the spot, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and I'll put it on geeks.live and you guys can just tell me how you're going to stream it. And we'll put it on there for that hour. And nobody's going to be there. Might as well have somebody be there. And then you wrote us the next morning. Well, my next morning, it was probably like 4 hours later for you, but it was the next morning. And when we said, yeah, absolutely. And you arranged it and you did that. And a lot of people liked that and thought that it was a great way to fill that void. And it was all just because we had a connection.
And we went for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was incredible.
It was awesome.
I kept on extending you because you guys were awesome. So let's get that done. We are not the sole purveyors of podcast knowledge, whether it's for hobbyists or not.
Heather, can you give me that time code? Because I'm going to play that back to SP at some point because a lot of times he acts like it. So
I know I do not know everything about podcasting. And that's why it's great to have some other people come on in that time slot or on our show and talk about their knowledge because they are experienced as well, or you are experienced as well. And it was great hearing from you. And then also, not everyone wants to hear from us every single week. I mean, we're quite boring guys. So, you know, I wouldn't want to listen to us. I only listen to us afterwards because Steven makes me.
I'm not going to deny it. I won't do it.
Fair enough. One thing for I haven't been in it that long, but what I've really got out of Better Podcasting is that idea that seeing you guys record live means that I can see how it works in the background. I probably wouldn't actually have got to this point of wanting to do a week of live streams without having watched your live recordings because I've said before that it makes me feel like I could get to the level that you put out in post-production at the end. Because at the moment, I'm not even anywhere near that. I can't edit video to save my life. But I also thought for this year that I wanted to really branch out and I want to help inspire and empower people. And one of those ways is making connections with them and hearing other people's stories. So I've had 2 guests on my show so far. And this week of live streams is kind of stepping out of my comfort zone and hopefully connecting with a whole bunch of people. So yeah, it's kind of you've helped inspire me and helped make it happen without possibly even realizing it by just providing all of the great content you do.
Oh, well, we're glad we were able to do that. And I got to say, in a sort of related note, you mentioned that we live stream this. I've said that a couple of times. Right now, we are broadcasting this on Google Hangouts. And usually when we do the live shows that we do with Better Podcasting, it's via Skype and I use a software called XSplit. Right now, the entire time I've been resisting the habit to push the switch button, the video switch button. It's force a habit for me. I'm going to switch to you or something and it's just not going. So it's taking everything for me not to push the button. I just have to share that because I've gone to do it like 6 times tonight. So
I see you
control over it either. We just whoever talks gets to be on the screen.
Exactly.
I see you doing it all the time, Steven. And it's like, okay, press that button and it won't get you anywhere. Maybe it'll take you off screen. Maybe it'll go to a black screen. Maybe it'll go to the XSplit broadcaster screen. Yeah, and maybe it'll be the better podcasting screen. So there you go. I want to say that it is amazing through the connections that you make on podcasting, what you're able to do outside of podcasting. And it is in connections that you make with other individuals, other people. For instance, I love, and this is just a hobby of mine, I love doing voiceovers, really do. And I like doing different voices. I like saying different things and helping other people out, because in audio production, it always helps if you have somebody else, some other voice that's actually doing the narration or the voiceover over whatever you're trying to do for an intro or commercial, an outro, something like that. And like your narration, by the way, of the Christmas special, Heather. And I love doing it to the point where people have started to come to me, which is good. I want you to come to me. I want you to ask me to do stuff. And then after the fact, they're like, dude, how much do you want? I'm like, it's free. Okay. No, dude, how much do you want? No, I will pay you. No, it's okay. No, you don't understand. If you don't tell me how to pay you, I will find you and I will drop $50 on your door. Oh, fine. Here's my payment information. And they do. And I'm very grateful that they think I'm worth whatever dollar amount it is. But that is what podcasting can do for you. It can open up doors so you can just have fun and maybe get a little kickback from it too. You don't have to. I don't really strive for that, but it's fun to do voiceovers. And Steven, I know you've got a good story as well.
Yeah, I want to say that one of the interesting things actually came from the beginning of Better Podcasting was with a fellow named Sean. The person that actually originally did our artwork is a graphic artist by trade. And I've been dabbling in Photoshop and building websites for a very, very, very long time. And it's all just been self-taught and just stuff that I went through and ended up kind of figuring out one thing and thought that I knew quite a bit about it, but knew that I had a lot to learn. Well, the person that originally did the artwork, Sean, like I mentioned, when he built all this stuff, he ended up actually giving me the Photoshop templates, which ended up letting me see how an actual graphic artist did certain layers within Photoshop and whatnot. And it was a massive learning experience for me. And it helped instantly evolve me as somebody who likes to just occasionally dabble in some form of graphics art just within podcasting and outside of podcasting. And it was just from a simple, he did our artwork, he shared the file, and then we had a bit of a chat. And it was massive learning just instantly, just by looking at one file. And it was a really cool thing. And Sean, I met through SP. I forgot your name for a minute, SP. But I did meet Sean through that. And it's a good example. And I've applied that not only to podcasting, but I do a little bit of Adobe style work within my day job now too. And I've used some of those things that I learned from him. So it's just an example on how an unrelated experience happened through podcasting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how it can sort of bring together from people from all over the place, especially like over the summit. We're all from all different kind of podcasts and not even podcasting because Joanne's not a podcaster yet. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, I really value just having conversations with people too in the groups and things as well. So like people who aren't podcasters themselves, but the audience, and learning from them, and also hearing feedback on what they got out of it and what impact it's having, or just any feedback. Yeah, it's really cool.
Absolutely. I know we're getting towards the end of how long you have allocated, but I just want to give one more connection shout out. That's actually a fairly recent connection shout out, last year or so. And it's one of our listeners on Better Podcasting. And he writes this pretty much every week. His name is Johnny Pennington. Johnny Pennington is a retired comedy writer. I don't know if I'm allowed to share that. Sorry, Johnny. I know that Johnny's watching this right now. But he is amazing at the feedback he gives us. Like, a lot of the pieces that we do for the network as promos are trying to be funny. That's just, we're trying to have fun. So naturally, if we do a promo piece, we want it to have an element of fun. And he is thorough with his feedback. He gives great advice. He gives suggestions of what he thinks works, things that might possibly work better. And he's just a solid connection that I've built just through better podcasting. You think about it, a podcast about podcasting connected me with a retired comedy writer. How awesome is that? And then he gives feedback, and we read his emails out quite a bit on Better Podcasted because they are so detailed. And it's just one connection that I had to make sure I shared on here because it came from left field, to be honest. And it's just a very nice connection, and one that I quite value.
Yeah, and he is a consistent part. He is there and engaged and watching everything that you do and giving that awesome feedback, and it's really cool to hear it as well. So thank you for sharing with us, so we get to hear what it is. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. I don't know if there's anything else you want to round out with. Like, I am going to finish it with links to where people can find you, but if you want to say anything else.
Well, I just want to say that I know SP and I give each other a hard time, but SP has been one of the connections that, like, one of the biggest connections I've ever made through podcasting. And I think events like this show that it's a really awesome connection that I've made. Is him and I, obviously, I talked about how we bounced off each other, but we now have people inviting us together to things. And it's just a very surreal connection that I've made, because here is this other half of this duo, this partner that I have, that people are inviting us together, yet I've never met the guy face to face. It's just an incredible connection that I've made just from podcasting. And SP, contrary to what I might say, you are a nice guy, and I'm very happy to podcast with you.
That is a very timely suck up, scenes though you forgot my name about 5 minutes ago. Don't think I haven't forgotten about that. But yeah, it's been a fun couple of years, and actually we've podcasted together even beyond that. It's been a fun few years together, and that's why I wanted to get into podcasting, is to have something fun to go do when everything else in life is hard, like work, and the cars are falling apart, the house is falling apart, and weather sucks and everything. Well, yeah, you can go to podcasting and have some fun. And Steven's a great guy to have fun with, and especially because he's so demanding as a producer. That's some of the fun is, when he's no, SB, you're saying the wrong thing, and he literally forgets my name in the middle of saying something too. So it's been fun, and it's most of the people I meet in podcasting, it's amazing too. Even in the communities like that, when I was on Facebook, and I have been booted from Facebook, by the way, so don't try to find me there. Facebook does not like the SP, but on Reddit or any of the other community places, it's fun. It's a great community, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you very much for everybody for allowing me to be part of this and not kicking me off your island, your podcasting island.
I just want to round up and say that because you guys have that connection, and one of the things that probably makes it as good as it is the communication that you have between each other. So despite how demanding each of you may be, or the banter that you have between each other, there is an open line of communication there, and that's probably what helps tie it all together. But then also the tight-knit community that you have with the Gonna Geek Network. So that is awesome and inspiring, and something that I am looking forward to develop myself.
And SP has only sent me 3 letter bombs over the year. Only 3.
And there was that white powder that I sent to you too. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I have a quick question. Are you guys going to do your thing after this?
We are.
Plug that then.
Are we okay too?
Yeah, please.
All right. So we usually record our show live on Wednesdays at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time at www.geeks.live. But somebody was sick this week. It was not me. It was SP. No, it was me. And so we decided that we were going to postpone it, and we're going to be recording it after. So if you are watching this on Heather's channel and you want to go ahead and check us out after, head on over to www.geeks.live. We'll get going about 10 minutes or so after we close down the stream. We got to replenish our water, get the streams properly going and everything. And also, SP does need to get his massage in between. He needs to get a massage before he podcasts every single time.
It's contractually obligated before every better podcasting, and soon to be of every Gonna Geek too, because we are entering into contract negotiations of the GonnaGeek.com show. Chris has some demands too, by the way, so you be prepared for those.
All the very best with your contract negotiations then. And thank you guys so much for supporting me and helping me along my journey. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that you've been here for the Sunshine Summit 2018. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Thank you for having us.
All right.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I'm looking forward to the Sunshine Summit 2018 and a half, as well as the 2019 version. So really looking forward to those.
Thanks. Cool. I'm excited too, and yeah. I'll leave it on that really giggly, excited note, and I'll probably catch you at geeks.live after this. Thank you guys for coming by.
Thank
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for coming by in the live chat. And like we said, they're recording their Better Podcasting episode after this on geeks.live. So go there and hang out. And also you can find Also you can find Better Podcasting at www.betterpodcasting.com. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you for the next live stream, which is Paul Chomo from the Varmints podcast. Until next time.